let's kick it off officially.
Yep.
Hi everyone. I'm Ben Shankman, and this is Laurie Nielsen, and we are Caffeinated Terrier Talk. We're here to talk about books, writing, the Bronx, apparently. But
Brooklyn.
we are currently the two members of Caffeinated Terrier Press, which is the publishing imprint of a local authors co-op in Connecticut and Massachusetts. So if you are a Connecticut or Massachusetts local author, you should come check us out. And we've got a Discord and everything, and you could come be friends with us. And we cheer each other on and celebrate each other's daily word counts or weekly word counts, because whatever, all words are good words. And also, we're still trying to figure out what that means from an imprint perspective, but we do have the opportunity to publish under a named imprint with a bunch of other really good authors. So yeah, so we are here, Caffeinated Terrier Talk, on Monday, the 17th, because this clock app never dates anything when people see it, so it's always very confusing to me.
Yes. Monday, November 17th of 2025.
Yep.
And I brought my book this
good.
time.
You
and
did
it's
bring your book.
backwards. I
mean,
I put it next to the computer so it would be here.
There are filters. You could add a filter that is like the mirror filter. It's an effect.
I don't want to learn new things.
I don't.
You
heard
way
it here
underestimating
first.
my laziness.
You heard it here first, folks. We don't want to learn new things.
I learned enough stuff when I researched my book, which is part of what we're going to talk about today.
Oh, why don't you just kick us off with? Well, besides, I was going to ask you. So, Laurie, what are we doing tonight, Brian?
Trying to take over the world.
No. What are we talking about tonight?
We are talking about planning and outlining, and what kind of planning goes into writing a book, how much, how little, and what kind, and how we do it, and maybe if we hear from other people how they plan writing. I'd be curious to hear from other people if there's people in the audience who want to chime in, or if they have questions. I can talk about my process. Ben can talk about his.
We can. And then we can hope that people will join us. But otherwise, these go up on my YouTube under, Caffeinated Terrier. So these will be posted as a video podcast. So yeah, we're here to talk about the writing process. So why don't you... Oh, hey. Sorry, we had...
More people.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's still here. Looks like he might be here. My friend Clarence Carter is here.
Oh, sweet.
I did a short story by Clint Baker for Clarence's like horror / like spooky kind of podcast.
Oh, cool. I have yet to be interviewed for one.
For a podcast? This is like more fun. This is specifically like indie authors will record short stories that then get posted for episodes of the podcast. So it's more like it's like an indie no sleep podcast kind of thing. Is that, Clarence, do I have that right in that, like, that's kind of the vibes? I don't know if he's actually Yep. There you go. Yep. It's
sweet.
Yeah, it's like it's like creepypasta or horror themed. Like the one that I did for Clint was a short story called Pest Control that was like sci-fi horror, which was like a blast. It was great to do also because narrating short stories is nice and quick and it can go out very easily.
Yeah, one of my friends recently, I shared on my author page on Facebook, one of my friends wrote a really like bite-sized short story that was so incredibly creepy and like future sci-fi horror. It was really, really good.
Really?
If you get a chance, just check my author Facebook for it, because I shared it just like a couple days ago. It was amazing.
Well,
Um,
if Clarence takes submissions, you should have them hook up with Clarence, see
okay.
if they can get their story over there. That'd be great.
Mm, yeah, that would be good. Is very bite size
Yeah,
short
who
story.
is that
Like I
author
think
again?
around 1,000 words. She used a pen name, and I do not remember what her pen name
Okay,
was.
so we
It was
will
Deirdre something.
got it. We will not
So
out the real
yeah.
person, but either way, yeah, yeah. Hook her up with Clarence, because more
Okay.
content is more better.
Hmm.
I hope that you're
Cool.
doing very well, Clarence. We're just here talking about writing. We're going to get into some process stuff. Also,
Mhm.
talk about what we've got going on in the exciting world of indie publishing. So yeah, Laurie, where should we start? Where do we start? And if you hadn't said it, I was
Oh,
going to. We're going to talk about how much planning, if any, people do.
mm, I do a lot.
We're
um,
going to be two ends of that
oh
bell
God.
curve.
Okay. I'm a planner. I plan everything. I am clinically diagnosed with OCD, so I'm on medication for it. It kind of ruined my life for a couple of years, so like it can get really bad. But I'm a very organized person, so I'd been working on story ideas for like it was probably 25 years before I finally found one that worked, and I had an idea. And before I started writing anything, I started planning. So I have all of these documents, all of this stuff. Is like, so here's what the main story idea is, and then I started chopping it up into like, what are the, how does it lay out? How does it go? um, and then like breaking it into smaller and smaller bits until it went into chapters neatly. And I'm basically doing the same thing now that I'm writing the second book, because this is the only book that's been published so far, which is backwards. But and basically the concept of like, is this just going to be one book? Is this going to be more than one book? And you know, it's called Down the Rabbit Hole, and that's really appropriate because I kind of fell down a rabbit hole. And for the first month at least, it was all just planning. Before I wrote any scenes at all, it was just, okay, well, I have this idea and I think it's really good. So I'm just going to write, what is the world like? It's going to have magic in it. What's the magic like? It's going to have fairies in it. What are the fairies like? um, there's going to be, it's going to be liminal spaces is like the overarching theme. You can go through these liminal spaces and get to the world of fairy. So how do those work? What kind of liminal spaces are there? So I have well over a dozen supporting documents that are like, this is what liminal spaces are like. This is what fairy is like. These are these kinds of fairies. These are those other kinds of. So it's all planned out, and I could go even into more detail about it, but like that's how I am. I got to tackle it. I got to organize everything. And before I was doing it in Google Docs, I've still got notes from 25 years ago when I had an idea for a story and it was all written down in a notebook. And I got notebooks everywhere that written down in my bad handwriting of ideas and doing the same exact stuff for stories that never went anywhere.
Sorry, you said a lot of notebooks, and that made me think of like all us neurodivergent folks in the like this bullet journal will fix us. Uh,
Oh God. Yeah. Well, I mean, you go through you go through Staples, you go through even just the office supplies part of the grocery store, and you see a notebook, and the cover is so pretty, and your crow brain turns on, and you want it because it's shiny. And maybe it has that little magnetic flap thing on the
oh,
front, and it
especially
snaps.
yeah, if it clicks.
Mm. Oh, the little snap sound. That's the money right there. You just need it.
I was in Barnes and Noble recently, a local Barnes and Noble because uh, we have I did a signing with some of the Caffeinated Terrier press folks
Mm,
last weekend,
yeah.
and I was in the Barnes and Noble, and I was not there to buy things. I was there to hawk books, and I was almost felled by like some really shiny fancy editions. Like I tend not to buy physical books these days. I mostly do audiobooks and if I do anything else it's ebooks. But but man, special editions like with foil edges and like the foil covers and like it looks real good.
Oh.
Like those are the kinds of books that I'll still find myself drawn. Because again, you're right, it's the crow brain, and we're just like, I could
Mm-hmm.
have that book is tasty. I don't know what that means, but my brain knows what that means.
Yeah. Notebooks, sketch pads, things like
Yeah.
that get me. I very nearly bought a notebook from Stop and Shop the other day just because it had the little magnetic closure and
Mm.
the cover looked really cool. It looked like a circuit board or something and it was foil and it was shiny and then I was like, no, I don't need it. I don't need it.
So you just talked about the fact that you do a lot of planning and you have notebooks and you have a lot of notes.
Mhm.
I'm going to represent the other side of the spectrum, the other end of the bell curve, in that. So I am what the writing community affectionately refers to as a pantser.
Mm.
Uh, we write by the seat of our pants, but I'm not. I'm like I want to find a middle ground because I'm not a true pantser. I'm not a pantser that doesn't do any planning. Um, I tend to think of those folks more as like just pure discovery writers, in that they just put words on the page and they see where the story goes, and that's it. Uh, and I do more than that. At least I found beat sheets, are which were made popular by Save the Cat Writes a Novel, which is
Mhm.
it's a craft writing book that I would recommend to folks. It's a little dry at times because a lot of it is basically taking popular media and going like taking popular novels and going into what the beat sheets would look like for those for the different things. Um, but I use a beat sheet pretty much every story that I write. Even if I was going to write a short story, you still want like some of the high level beats at least. So I use that for my plot beats. But then I've also now I've always had a little bit of an outline, in that it's in a word a Google Doc that I have that is going to be like important notes and things that I feel like need to happen, and then I kind of match up things on the beat sheet versus that rough outline. Um,
Mm.
but I will say the longer a book goes and the more complex it is, the more I do like respect people who do a lot of heavy planning, because like I just as a quick writing update, what was that?
So it was just
Oh
mm.
yeah, uh, I I just finished the draft of book 4 of my The Devil You Know series,
Mm.
and I started off with a beat sheet. I don't the more I write a book series that I'm very familiar with, the more it's like beat sheet only.
Mm.
Like for the Devil You Know books, I did beat sheets and like notes in an outline doc, and that's it.
Hmm.
But in the fourth book, I started off purely with a beat sheet, and that is it. And then I wrote like a third of the book, and then I effectively the story kind of just went. And you know how it is, like sometimes our characters and our storylines tell themselves and we just kind of go along
Oh,
for
yeah.
the ride. And then I found that I had abandoned the beat sheet. Like I had filled out the first third of the beat sheet, and then I had ideas for where things were going to go next. And usually I'll like add in more to the beat sheet as I hit those beats. And then I just didn't. And then I got half to 2/3 of the way through the book, like based on what my expected word count was going to be, and things kept going. And I'm like, I'm feeling a little adrift. Um, also conversely, I had a bit of a break in the middle of writing because I participated in the Inkford Publishing Derby, so like
Right.
took 2 months to write to co-author a different book in a different genre and basically put the fourth book down for a while. And so
Mm.
I actually did the unthinkable for book four, and that is I actually wrote a chapter by chapter outline for the last, I don't know, more than 12 chapters, 15 chapters. And it's not a lot. It's like, I think I always assumed that when, if you outlined, you had to go crazy about it. And
No.
I didn't, you know, my outline was basically like chapter 16, Amy. Amy does these three things. That's what happens. And like, that's it. That's the outline. So I know like what the main purpose of the chapter is to help guide my writing. But that's still more true chapter by chapter outlining than I have ever done before. So it was kind of an
Mm.
interesting, like, I started off pantsing like I do, but then in the end I was a little too lost at sea and needed an anchor, and so I made that detailed outline.
Mm. Yeah, I will say, for my first book, I made a chapter by chapter outline and so much detail in the outline of like, in this chapter, this thing is going to happen, and like a full paragraph for every chapter of like, these really important things have to happen in each chapter. And then I found myself as I was writing, at times I was like, oh no, I need that to happen in a different chapter. Or I've written the whole chapter and that thing didn't happen. Well, it just didn't feel organic. Like it didn't feel right for it to happen, even like at all in the book. Like that just, it just doesn't feel right once you get into writing it. So I realize that I don't really need to plan to that detail, to that level of detail now that I'm writing the second one. And I've got, I definitely have the idea of how the whole story is going to go. That's all there. And I planned it like the first one, I think I kind of vaguely used a beat sheet. In this one, I planned it as 5 acts, like more like a Shakespeare play. So I wrote what the acts are, and each one has like a specific, like, I don't remember, like, introduction, complication, stuff like that. And there's definitely things that happen in each act, and it's all like when you're writing an outline for a school project. So it's like, Roman numerals and then letters and then numbers, and it's all like I could turn this in as like I'm working on a school project because part of my brain just never left school. So that's all in there, but I've only got a certain number of chapters actually worked out as far as like, these are the chapters. And that only gets like really partway into like the second act. I know that I will have ideas for what the chapters will be later, but at least I have the acts planned out. And I don't really know how those chapters are going to go later on in the book until I get to them. Like I've the things I've got that I have to hit are like, well, the first book was inspired by Alice in Wonderland, the second book's inspired by Labyrinth, so I got to hit things like the Labyrinth, and the fires, which are the things that try to take your body parts. So like I have a thing that's going to be inspired by that, and I have notes for like these specific things I saw in Labyrinth I want to have reflected in the book. So I've got all notes like that, but I don't have that specific chapter by chapter paragraph for every one of them because of how far I deviated when I finally wrote the first book, and I know I'm going to deviate anyway. So there's a little more pants pantsing, whatever.
Pantsing, yes.
Pantsing is when you take someone's pants off. But
Is
there's
it?
a little more of that freewheeling sort of like, oh, I'm going to see where the story goes, because it is more of an open-ended adventure kind of thing. Because like the first book, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew exactly how it was going to go. But this one, it's more into like the wilderness, and a little, she's a little more lost even than in the first book, because the first book was so much exposition, and the second book is so much more of like a journey, a
Yeah,
hero's
it
journey.
isn't that like a it's such a difference when, and I think we talked about this last time at least a little bit, it's such a difference writing a second book in a series because
Mm-hmm.
you get to start from an established, you know,
Mm.
set of characters. You don't
Yes.
there is not nearly as much setup and exposition as your first book needed to have. So yeah,
Right.
it's like putting on a coat that you've worn before and you get to kind of just run with it. I'm curious though because you're saying that um that Alice is a little more lost in the wilderness. How do you feel as an author now, like pantsing a bit more than you did before? Do you feel like you are more unmoored than like the first book?
I I feel like a little more free. Like I feel like the first book I was beholden to world building.
Hmm.
And there will definitely be more world building in this one. Like not more than in the first one. The first one was a lot of world building. I feel like there will also be world building in this one. And I was brushing my teeth one night and I had an idea and I was like, oh shit, I got to write this down. So I had an idea and I will say I'm trying to drink water so I don't get a sore throat. So mm,
I say
I will say
I'm drinking the whole time. Don't feel bad about it.
I wasn't great at science in school. That was one of my weaker subjects. And by weaker, I mean I only got like an A minus. I was a total nerd in school. Um, but I worked for a science company for 20 years and I learned a lot of science while I was there. So the idea that I had is basically like the science of why iron hurts fairies and how a person who is genetically a fairy human hybrid, like why they exist in the world and how iron affects them and the DNA of that and the specific science of how it works popped into my head one night while I was brushing my teeth. So I'm like, okay, even if this doesn't get explained in this book, I need to write this down because I came up with a perfect scientific explanation for it. And now that's in another note. Like there's another doc that I started that has the perfect scientific explanation for it. And I even explained it to my husband, and he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that works." Is a lot of the time he's just my rubber duck, and he just sits there and goes, "Okay," and he just listens and nods, and he's like, "Whatever you just said sounds plausible." And sometimes he punches holes in it and goes, "This doesn't make any sense at all." But like, so there will be also world building in this one, but I feel a lot more free to explore the world that I've built, and that's part of why I'm not just writing the whole book before I write the book. As far as like every chapter I've already written as a paragraph, I feel a lot more like I can just go, I can just write, and I don't have to plan it all because I can just play in this world that I've made.
Hmm.
So it's freeing. It's more fun this time. And it feels less like work, I guess. I don't know. It's fun.
I mean that's good. Fun. Some of this has to be fun
Yes.
because otherwise it would just be work, and that
Yeah.
sounds like I do enough of that already. That sounds terrible. Why would I do that if there wasn't any element of and to be fair, art.
To be
So
fair.
to be fair, art isn't always fun.
No.
Art is about passion and joy. So like to to correct my statement a little bit, I'm glad that this one is more fun for you, uh, because I think that probably just makes it even better. But there are plenty of times where the things that I'm doing aren't necessarily fun, but I'm getting like fulfillment out of it.
Mm,
So just
yeah.
as a personal note, like thinking about it that way. But that's interesting and
Mm,
good that you're feeling more free in the process and that you're less constrained by having to build the world that people will have
hmm.
already experienced. So yeah, no,
Right.
I like all that.
And then sometimes it does feel like a lot of work because,
Mm.
like, the first book took place in my neighborhood. So I didn't have to think about what does that building look like because it's right there. like I could go for a walk and see it if I needed to. The second book takes place mostly in New York City, which I don't live in anymore. So, and I haven't been there in a while. Like, not especially this part, like Brooklyn, I have not been to
Hmm.
since 1996 when I left. So, a lot of it's like looking on Google Maps and looking at Street View and kind of going, well, okay, so technically this takes place in a different universe. So my version of Brooklyn could be different from what it's really like. But then are people who live in Brooklyn going to be mad at me if I change it too much? It's stuff like that. So it's like, I still got to do a lot of research, you know. So then sometimes it does feel a lot like work. And art is work. It's hard. Every kind of art is hard. And for the record, I went to art school there. So I'm placing it near where I went to school because that's the part I know the best. But yeah, usually when I go to New York, I go to Manhattan, and that's the part I know better.
In the comments, Kat is offering to scout for you when they go to Brooklyn.
Yes, please do. Specifically, Bed-Stuy.
That's funny because the friend that
the
Kat
neighborhood.
goes to visit lives in Bed-Stuy.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, just get me some vibes. I would like to know some vibes other than what I can see through Street View.
Yes, I would like.
Awesome.
Yes, please. I would like the vibes.
Please, sir, can I have some vibes?
Nice.
Awesome.
I will say though, like Google Street View, like for writing urban fantasy, as far as tools go, I could not, like, I lived and worked and went to school in New Haven. It is still one of my favorite stomping grounds. I'm still there regularly. I am still on Street View regularly. If I'm like, oh man, I need, it's fine. It's just hitting your bike stand. So it goes bing bong, yeah.
There was a thing hitting this spring.
There you go.
I moved the thing.
And yeah, I'm like, oh, this part of the story, I need a warehouse district. I know it's doing it again. Oh, so it whenever you touch your table, it vibrates your microphone is the problem.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's oh, I know where the warehouse districts are, but I don't know what a building there looks like. So
right.
To Street View I go.
Yeah, when I'm too lazy to go for a walk because I'm not on the street where Alice lives, I'm a couple streets away. Yeah, I've used Google Street View for my own damn neighborhood.
Yeah, so
it's nice.
For anyone listening, like especially if you're writing urban fantasy, don't feel like you can't use technology to your advantage and have picture perfect descriptions of real places because of the fact that the Google car wandered around for 5 years getting all those pictures.
Yeah, it's really helpful. And yeah, most of book 3 is going to happen, spoiler alert, but most book 3 is going to happen in the Land of Fairy anyway. So I get to make all that shit up.
See, that's an interesting choice. And honestly, like at some point, I think having a panel of urban fantasy authors, this is actually something I was talking to another podcaster, Daniel Kulba, who's a great guy, and I've been on his show a couple times. He wants to do an urban fantasy like round table. And because you're not the first person for like books that I've read where it's like, oh, this next book happens mostly not in the urban fantasy world that I've set this in. It happens in, the equivalent of the Upside Down,
Yeah.
And
it's going to go back and forth, but yeah.
Yeah, but if the majority of it
you
happens,
get free reign.
Yeah, you do, but it's also it's an interesting choice because it puts it closer to fantasy than urban fantasy, which is why it's a subgenre and there's crossover. But I would love to know later what the difference is in that. Was it more difficult to write the story based on
Mm-hmm.
the setting being fantastical and you needing to describe that more, because
Mm-hmm.
do the streets look like our streets? Do
Right.
that kind of stuff? Is there a lot more description that you have to do, or are you letting it be more nebulous and kind of ethereal? Like, I'll be
Mm-hmm.
curious about that.
Yeah, I'm curious about it too because I don't know yet.
Because I'm not there
Well,
yet.
part of it is that the third book is based on Wizard of Oz and the other works of L. Frank Baum, which I will be reading before I tackle that. So, not really based on, but inspired by. So, there's going to be some of that, like, you know, the Emerald City, Yellow Brick Road kind of touch points in there. So it's gonna have some of that feeling to it.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm really going to say about that because I haven't started writing yet. I am only about a fifth of the way through the second book. So like, that's just, as I have ideas, I'll put them in my notes for the third book.
Hmm.
I only have the vaguest idea of where this is all going. Because that's the other thing. Sometimes you plan meticulously, and then sometimes you just have vibes.
Yeah. So story
So,
story entirely based on vibes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes the characters tell you where they want to go.
I've had, and that's the thing, is that's why I don't like extensive planning. I like enough
Mm,
planning, because so much of it comes down to I'll get an inspiration for something that has nothing to do with any of the thoughts that I have come up with so far, and yet it's great, you know.
mm,
And so, yeah, there is such a thing as too much planning, just like there's technically, even though there kind of isn't such a thing as too little planning, there can be. It all depends on the sad part of this is it all depends on whether it works out in the end. Did
yeah.
you end up with a book? Well, then your process worked in one way or another.
Yeah. Some of my notes right now look a lot like the plan for the underpants gnomes,
Mm-hmm.
where it's just like step one is steal underpants, and step two is just question marks, but step three is profit. So as long as I can get to step three, yeah, and sometimes while I'm writing, like I wrote a scene that happened on the Metro North train into New York City, where Alice meets a stranger, and I wanted them to have a conversation, because like it's like that show don't tell, and I'm like, oh, this is a really good spot for her to talk about her brother, and talk about what's going on with this person, and she's like, well, an indifferent third party, I can talk about this stuff and kind of set up what's going on. And I'm like, okay, I've got the first part of the conversation. I've got where I want it to end. And I literally in the middle just put brackets, stuff happens here, close brackets. And then I put the end of the conversation. And since I had where it was going, it was easier to write how it gets there.
Mm.
So sometimes you just got to write the end bit, and then it's easier to figure out how do we get there.
You have to be a little bit careful about that, though, because you will end up with a finished book, and then when you go for your first editing pass, you will find a bracket that
Right.
says stuff goes there, and you will be like, son of a bitch, I'm not actually done yet. Like that,
Yes.
that's
Use
always
that
the,
sparingly.
yeah, it's the worst. It was funny though,
Yeah.
like I was co-authoring with my friend Poppy, and there are times where like it would be their turn at like holding the pen for writing a chapter or a part, and then they would go bracket Ben fix this, and it would no, we agreed, like I was the
Okay.
I'm the I'm going to say this wrong on purpose, so I'm the thesaurus when the thesaurus when they
Yeah.
can't think of a word, they say, Ben, a word like this, and then I replace it with whatever the word is that they're looking for. But then
Okay.
also, like, there were other things. It got to be kind of comical in the like, and they were like, I'm so sorry, I stuck you with a bunch of things.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And like and you get better at it as you keep going. So like your Devil You Know series got better as the books went on because you get better as you write. And as long as the story is good, I think that my second book, I think that Underground is going to be better than Down the Rabbit Hole. Just and partly because like now that I have a specific author account on Instagram, I'm getting all the author content, and it's like, here's what not to do while writing. And I'm like, oh, how often do I fucking do that? If I search my manuscript for the word nodded, how often do my characters just nod? I don't need to do that.
You take all of that with like a
With
big
the
honking rock of
grain of
salt,
salt. Yeah.
because and like I get content from a lot of authors and a lot of author coaches and a lot of editors, and some of them are just
Bad
unnecessary.
advice.
Well, even if it's good advice, it's all hyperbole. It's
Yeah.
all never do this, always do that. But the reality is, do it all sometimes.
Yeah.
Show,
Totally.
don't tell, except when telling makes sense.
Right.
Never use adverbs, except everyone uses adverbs. Shut up. Don't tell anyone not to use adverbs. You know, it,
Right. But
you know,
there's, there's such a thing as overdoing it.
there is. I mean, don't tell me. Don't ask how many times the word "that" appeared in my first manuscript. That is a crutch word.
Oh, that. I thought you meant vat, like the thing that villains fall into
Oh,
in Batman,
a vat.
in Gotham
Yeah,
City. A
yeah.
vat. Yeah, like a vat of acid. Now I'm a bad guy. Um, that, yeah. And I look out for that.
Yeah.
And I don't write it very
Well,
often
and I
because
have
you usually don't need it.
you don't usually, but you found instances where I removed that from sentences, and
Hmm.
you were like, this does not make
It
sense
makes
without
no sense.
the
Yeah.
word "that" there, and you put them
And
back
that's
in.
why you need an editor.
But that's the funny thing again. Like I've picked up enough tips and tricks that I feel like I avoid most of the pitfalls of just
Hmm.
categorically bad or mediocre writing. But I'm sure I still do a ton. Like all of my characters nod and sigh and do all
Oh,
the
yeah.
things that people say never to do, except real people do that. And like, why wouldn't you write what real people do? Because you want your people to feel real. And yeah, you're right. There, it can be a crutch. You can do it too much, but I
Yeah.
I feel like anyone who's like, I'll never use the word nodded again, and like just
Oh no,
yeah,
but you can overuse it. And
sure,
I've seen some of the points where I'm like, yeah, I should probably go back through and just reread a little bit at when now that I'm at the point that I'm at, I'm like, I could reread and just see with that in mind
hmm
and see like, is there a way to punch this up? Because at a certain point, like if you never use the word said, it starts to sound fucking goofy.
yeah. Dialogue
Like
tags are
sometimes people just say shit.
it,
You're not going to be like, he pontificated. Like,
well,
no,
it's not just
don't
that.
fucking do
So
that.
so let's talk about that from like a craft perspective, because the reason why dialogue tags exist is to clarify who is talking.
Hmm.
That is the only reason the dialogue tags matter. Uh,
Yep. When it's just two people, you don't really need it as much. But when
Except
it's three,
you'll find though, when I have two people talking, there are only so many times I actually want to have a line break and no identifier of who is speaking, because if I get three or four like exchanges down, I'm like, who's talking? Yeah. So I'll actually break up my own like two-person dialogue with, if not dialogue tags,
mm-hmm.
actions that are happening around that indicate who is talking. So it'll be
Right.
like, hey, how's it going? And then it'll be like, I'm doing fine. Nick stirred his coffee with his spoon. So we know Nick is talking because
Yes.
Nick is doing something. And so like there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I tend at this point to like change it up a lot, in that I'll use a dialogue tag and then I'll use actions to identify it. And then I'll just use nothing because you don't need it because it makes sense. But like
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those like variety is the spice of life kind of things.
Yeah. And I even made notes. I remember in the last book of yours that I proofread, a couple different scenes where I like, who who even said this? Because it does get confusing after a while.
Who's
I don't know
talking?
who's talking right now.
Yeah.
So you do have to watch for that. But yeah, if you never use the word said and you only ever use synonyms, it reads really goofy. You got to say people said things. It's fine. Like people can say things. They can say them with adverbs also. They
Yes,
can
you
say
can
them.
say it quietly. You don't have to whisper,
Yeah,
but but
exactly.
but whispering is. But there's also there was a guy who got dragged on TikTok a long time ago. By a long time, I mean like it was within the past year or two because time is meaningless.
Time is meaningless.
But he got dragged because he said the only valid dialogue tag is said, and that is the only thing you should ever use in your dialogue. And he just got roasted by the internet. And that's the lesson. The lesson is if you say something with absolute certainty about writing, you're probably wrong.
Yeah, that's insane.
Well, yeah, and like there were stitches from like editors and other authors with their like Chicago manuals of style and style books and classic it's like people who are doing the M dash thing where they're like, "Oh man, I know this book was written by AI," and they show it's Frankenstein because it's got an M dash in it. I love
Uh-huh.
those by the way. Like all of those where it's like, "Oh man, this hugely popular book was totally written by AI, and I know because of the end, and it's a classic novel. It's Shakespeare, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I think that's hilarious. But yeah, you didn't. No writing advice can or should be absolute, and I say that absolutely. That's the only thing I will say absolutely.
Yeah. Uh and yeah. And it's probably not totally healthy to read every single review, but
But
I
I
read a review
do.
that I read a review that stuck in my craw because it was so stupid.
Oh no,
So
is it
yeah.
is it a new one? Did I miss it?
Oh no, it was the one I was telling you about with like, oh, no Americans would understand what
Yeah,
Jay is saying because he has a Cockney accent. I'm like,
that's still
half of what I watch is British, and yeah, I I based him on a specific person.
so.
And that could be a topic for another day. Another one of these is like how we get our ideas for characters, because that's a rich subject to explore. But like he's based on a real person who has a Cockney accent and is very easy to understand, at least for me. But I have definitely, like, I have met people in America who think I'm British because of how properly I speak, or at
Mhm.
least how properly I used to speak. Because I moved down to Austin, Texas, and so many people asked if I was British. And I was like, I'm from Connecticut. And then it became a thing in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, where there was a guy who had a British accent, but he was just from Connecticut, and that was how he was raised. And I was like, do we sound British to everyone else in the country?
I mean, it is New England after all, I guess. I don't know.
But yeah, like everything else she said was also really stupid. Still 3 stars, but like, yeah, there's a lot of dumb advice and there's a lot of dumb takes out there, and I try not to be one of the people making those dumb takes. I just
Yeah.
make it. I just write a book.
Yeah, we write books. I write books and I try to know things.
I try.
It's a try. We so we got like less than 10 minutes left because we turn into pumpkins at 10 o'clock. Um, what have so you're working on the next book? Is that
Mhm.
all you've got going on currently? Anything as far as like stuff going on for book one? Are you considering your how are your have you thought about audiobooks? Like what's your
Oh
current
gosh.
stuff going on?
Um, I I'm my brain just stopped working.
Oh no, I've asked a terrible question.
You did. My CPU just overheated and shut down. I mean, I, I'm right now just trying to figure out how to market the first book,
It's
and
awful.
I'm mostly, it's terrible. I was the head of marketing at my last job, and I guess I wasn't that. I'm not going to blame it all on me that the company kind of went out of business. We were bought by a competitor, but I'm going to blame that on my old boss because we didn't do that great. Um, no, it was a very popular company, and lots of teachers loved us. And I was basically the only person in charge of marketing for the last few years, but that was also during the pandemic, and shit was hard. So I should know more about marketing, especially online marketing, because it was all online. I was sitting here, not in this chair, because I think we got this later, but I should know so much more about marketing, and I feel like I don't. It was kind of a trial by fire trying to learn all of that on my own, because I didn't go to school for any of it. I just sort of learned on the job, and I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm posting online. I post my silly little videos, and sometimes I remember to look at Book Sirens and see if there are new reviews that I should probably post somewhere. But it's all like I don't know what I'm doing. Um,
Yeah,
I
we
don't know
we
what
all
I'm
we all
doing.
turn into Jennifer Lawrence at the award ceremony. It's like what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah,
Uh,
I have no idea what I'm doing.
it's tough. So we just keep going. We just keep
Okay.
doing that. So to be fair, there are plenty of authors that literally will just publish their book and that's it. And we they if the book sells, great. If the book doesn't, that's great. But like they don't put a lot of time or effort into marketing because it is in and of itself a separate side gig. Um,
It is.
which we already have side gigs. Writing books is our side gig that doesn't
Yeah.
pay. Uh,
And
so
I have other hobbies. I just finished a gift for Cat, and I'm going to give it to them the next time we hang out, which I don't know when that's going to be. And yeah, and work's about to get really, really busy because it's peak and I work retail. Um, yeah, I have a web comic I haven't drawn in like 2 years, and I have like one really enthusiastic fan who wants to know when the next issue is coming out, and I keep forgetting about it because I'm doing this. And I have a chronic illness that means I have to sleep half of every day. Um, and yeah, there's so much going on, and I just feel like I just do not have the time for marketing. Um, and I just joined a political group. It's yeah, it's too many things. It's so many things. What I mean, you do a lot of interviews, right?
I do, and so that's actually like the choice is always: do I produce product? Do I produce content? Or do I do any of the other million things that I should be doing that isn't those things? Uh, and yeah, I've done I try to line up a fair number of interviews. A, because I actually enjoy doing them, but B, it's a way to get myself out there and hopefully engage with audiences that might be interested in reading my books.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it works or not, but I have a good time and I've built connections with these various other authors and content creators. Um, but yeah, it takes time. Like, uh, I will let me share a celebratory thing that I posted a video about yesterday. But I just finished the draft of book 4. I know I mentioned that earlier, but it it clocked in at just over 100,000 words, which is the longest book that I've written so far. It's not
Wow.
going to stay that big, but usually I only lose maybe 1,000 words in editing, give or take.
Hmm.
Given that this is longer, we'll have to see. But like, it's not going to drop probably below 95,000 words, so it's still going to be the biggest book that I will have published. Uh, but
Nice.
if I hadn't finished it, it'd be a choice between like doing this with you and sitting down and writing for a half an hour because like I want to do something else at some point, and it's like I'm trying to get back on the fitness bandwagon and walk on my treadmill and um, you know, I'm currently playing Hollow Knight, which is a fun game, and I like doing that, but that takes time. And I've just started recording book 3 of the audiobooks for The Devil You Know, which is Too Many Gods in the Kitchen.
Hmm.
Uh, and I've, I've still got so many other irons in the fire. I have I have half of a beat sheet for the next Corbin Pierce book, and probably
Yay.
I think I got up to like 13,000 words before I put it down because I wasn't feeling it.
Hmm.
So I need to revisit the beat sheet and those first few chapters and kind of see where I want to go with it. But yeah, I have the next Corbin Pierce book to write. Uh,
That's a lot of things.
It is, and like I feel like I've let this author thing consume my life to an extent, but like I love all the things that I've done. I love having been a performer. Like I still technically am, but like we don't have any
Hmm.
gigs, and I'm not chasing them because after 15 years of you know getting us events to do, I've basically burnt out on that.
Hmm.
and and so like this is something that I can do for myself, and I don't have to it, like this isn't a thing that I have to wrangle any other cats for.
Hmm.
And it is like one of, I think, the most fulfilling things that I'll have done from like an artistic perspective, like more so than performance and other stuff, is just like I've put published art out into the world and people have enjoyed it, and like that feels somehow more, I don't know, momentous than any gig that I've emceed and spun fire at. So it's, I don't know, it's tough to say. It's like it's the evolution, you know. It's like my current Pokemon form has like a laptop glued to his hands, you know. That's it doesn't mean that it's my final form, but it's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on, I had to pull a puzzle piece. There we go. I
Is
don't
that an alarm?
know. It's there we go. It somehow, for some reason, even though I'm talking, it tells me that it we were inactive, and because we haven't moved enough in like the last
Oh,
5 minutes, and so
okay.
it yells at me and tells me that I have to verify that I'm alive.
That's weird.
Well, it's so people can't just put up alive and then walk away.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, it has been an hour,
yeah,
so that's about how long I think we were planning on talking.
that's true. And we've had
Um,
a nice meandery, like, what is it that we're even doing here at the end kind of thing.
yeah.
Why don't you tell people where they can find your stuff, and then we'll sign off and do this again sometime soon.
Okay. Well, if my name is displaying, you can find my book on Amazon. It is under you search for my name, because if you search for Down the Rabbit Hole, you're gonna come up with way too many books. But search under my name, LaurieNeilsen, and you will find it. And it is the book with the white rabbit on the cover, and that is the one published book so far. There will be more later in the Liminal Spaces series. And you could also go to author.laurienielsen.com, and all the information is there, including a whole bunch of links. And if you can make it to my profile, there's also a link tree in my profile. My eye's really itchy right now. Um, and everything is there. And that also has all the other things that I do, like Etsy and t-shirts and stuff. There's a lot. I have so many side gigs. So much hustle.
All the hustle.
All
Thank
the
you.
hustle.
Thank you, Laurie. And as always, thank you for chatting with me.
Thank you.
And I'm Ben Schenkman, author of the Devil You Know series and the newest book, Let Sleeping Gods Lie, which is the first in what I am calling the Corbin Pierce Chronicles, though that series title isn't on the covers yet because I was waiting till I had the second book out for that.
Makes sense.
But yeah, you can find me at benshankman.com and on all of these platforms. So, with that being said, thank you to everyone who has joined us. And if you gave this a listen, we hope that you learned something, or if not, at least you had a moderately good time. All
Yep.
right. Good night, everybody.
Bye.